Hey everybody, this is Khara Brindle. Welcome back to another video. I have my counterpart Nate with me for financial therapy. Some of you haven't met him yet, but you should know who he is. And by counterpart, I mean we're doing a lot of trainings together on financial therapy side, but obviously today we're talking to mental health professionals. So Nate, do you want to share a little bit about yourself with this audience?
Yeah, hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Nate Astle. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and then I do almost exclusive work around financial therapy, around helping people with the emotions around money and working through those, and with the end goal that they also make better financial decisions as well. So I do a lot of work around couples with financial conflict and financial trauma.
And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, obviously, you and I have been working a lot on what financial trauma is, but it feels like a buzzword probably to the community of mental health folks. Can you define what that would be for them?
Sure. So, just like sexual trauma, that's we're experiencing trauma responses and trauma symptoms around a previous sexual experience or contact. Financial trauma is anything that causes us to experience trauma symptoms that has to do with money. Sometimes it can be our own money experiences. I lost a job. I grew up in poverty, something like that. But it also can be what I'll call tangential to money. So, my we were poor growing up and my dad worked all the time and now I have a really negative association with work. Or I remember my parent overspending, and it caused a lot of problems in their relationship. And now it's hard for me to date anyone and feel good while I spend. Any kind of trauma or an experience that leads to big emotions around money is something I would put under the financial trauma umbrella.
Mm. Yeah. And so, what would you want mental health folks to be looking for if it's a matter of being able to either start to address this concern if it's in their wheelhouse? If it's not, I imagine they'd refer out. That's something we would encourage. But what would help them on the path of saying this is something to pay attention to? What would they see in their clients?
Um, I would, well, one, I think it's important just to talk about it with your clients at all, just the same way that, when clinicians bring up topic areas that maybe we don't talk about in normal society, it provides some safety for clients to talk about it. So even doing that is a huge step. Things to be aware of, I would say, asking them what their feelings are. If they make a little joke here and there, like, oh, I got no money, or oh, I shouldn't have made that choice. Instead of kind of laughing it off, like most of us do, be like, oh yeah, is that like a problem area for you, would you say? Asking them questions about their history with money, asking them questions about how was money treated growing up. Even just those kind of basic assessment questions can go a really long way. Of course, the normal PTSD type responses we want to be on the lookout for as well. Withdrawing, physical responses, physical reactions to it, eyes glazed over, not looking at us. Of course, like other forms of trauma, if the emotional reaction is larger than what we would expect for the situation, there might be some trauma there. So, um, most of us probably feel a little guilty when we overspend, but for some people, it really wrecks their day or their week, or it really hurts how they talk in their relationship. That might be something good to dig into.
Yeah, to pay attention to. I'm just thinking about like the spiraling out or the spiraling down that they might come into a session talking about of like, oh, like it's tied to maybe some negative core beliefs of like, I'm not smart with money or I'm not good
Mhm.
enough or I messed up. Um, some of that I language that might
Right.
come into play. The idea you just gave me that I think is worth telling this audience is most of us have to do a formal intake to start therapy, right? Whether we call it a mental health assessment or an intake or whatever that looks like. And part of that is asking about have they ever had a traumatic experience? And so in my head, as soon as you said we would ask about this like any other trauma, it's like, well, this needs to be in an intake then. This needs to be something to literally have in your list of questions. Have you ever experienced a traumatic experience related to sexual activity, physical abuse? Have you ever had a financial trauma? And if they say, I don't know what that is, it'd be a chance to broach that and talk about it briefly. What are your
That's a great
thoughts?
idea. I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So hopefully, if that's a takeaway from today's video, of like, hey, let's ask about financial trauma, especially now that they know kind of more what that looks like, some examples. Obviously, we didn't give them an exhaustive list because financial trauma, like any trauma, is specific to each person, of what's traumatic versus what's a stress reaction. If folks are like, wow, this is important, but I don't feel like it's in my wheelhouse to sit in it for very long, especially if they haven't done their own money work, which you and I are champions of with therapists. Um, what would you recommend for referrals? Would you have them go to like FTA? Where would you send people to say, find more information on someone who can hold this for your client?
The Financial Therapy Association, and then I would also check out the Financial Therapy Clinical Institute for some research, and even just sharing some blogs that we've written before about financial trauma is a great start.
Yeah. And I know there's lots of things on LinkedIn because all of our colleagues are talking about financial trauma. So that's another place for people to do a deeper dive. But to your point, you and I put together a training on financial trauma. So I think that's important to name for these folks when it comes to it was written and created for financial professionals and mental health professionals who haven't yet done a deeper dive into financial trauma. So it gives them something to think about and, a couple hours worth of content. So I'll make sure to put that link below as well. Any final thoughts for mental health therapists who are thinking about financial trauma?
We need to talk about money more, and it's okay. It's going to be okay. Money, just like most topics, it's scary until you start talking about it, and then you realize most of us have very human responses with money. So breaking down money stigma is actually very important in your work as a therapist.
Absolutely. And Nate and I are resources for all of you. So if you're like, I want to learn how to talk more about money in my practice, we're a resource for that. We're creating more content for all of you to get those training hours that you might need. But we're also available for consultation and I'll be providing some supervision around this. So very exciting stuff for all of you as mental health folks when you're serving your clients with topics of money. So I'll make sure to put some links below so you can check out where the trainings are located and more about Financial Therapy Clinical Institute and FTA, which is Financial Therapy Association. And Nate, I just really appreciate you talking with me briefly here about financial trauma. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, viewers, stay tuned for more videos. We'll see you next time.